Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today I have a special guest with me. I have cinematographer Pedro Cardillo, and he's here to talk about the ITV series Joan. Pedro, how's it going?
Oh, thanks, Tiffany. Thanks so much for having me. Everything's good. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. So I actually got a chance to watch the first episode of Joan, and I loved it. So congratulations on such a job well done. I think it's such a great series. Before we jump into the questions about the series, I did just want to ask you really quickly if you could explain what the job of a cinematographer is for those who don't know,
Oh,
and then
great.
just kind of run me through a typical day, what it was like on set.
Okay, so the cinematographer or the director of photography is the person responsible for translating into images the ideas of the director and what's written on the script. So my job is basically choosing the right lens, the right camera, the right framing, and also the right lighting for each scene. So whenever you see a script, it's only uh, words on paper. So I have to translate this into images, how the camera is going to behave, how wide is going to be the shot, how low is going to be the camera, how dark or how bright or how colorful. So that's what a DOP does.
Okay, that's interesting. And so typically when you're starting a new project, is this something that you're automatically laying out for the entire series, or do you go episode by episode?
No, it usually the process usually involves like reading all the scripts, creating the what I call it lookbook. So we create we're using references from research, how we want the show to look, how we want the camera to behave, and then after those conversations, we reach obviously an agreement with the director, with the production designer, with the writer, and then after that we go into the technical bit, which is actually translating it to images, choosing the lens manufacturer, which camera we're going to use, how I'm going to light the sets, and that's how it evolves. Does it make sense?
Yeah, that does. That's really
Good.
interesting to me. So I'm really curious about how you came across this project and what was it about it that made you say yes to it?
Oh, I have worked with Richard Lexton, the director, before on commercials, and so he invited me to shoot this drama with him. And when I read the first script, I was totally mad about it because Joan's story is so powerful. That has so many layers. You have the mom, the struggling single mom trying to recover her child. You have a woman becoming like a godmother of the London underworld and becoming a great diamond thief. So there are so many different layers in the same character. It was so powerful, the story, that I immediately wanted to light it and lens it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even, I mean, from the first shot, we see Joan's back and it's all scarred. And I immediately was like, oh, this woman has been through some things. So I'm
Exactly.
curious, yeah, from your perspective, what was the intention behind making that the first shot?
Yeah, I mean, it was already scripted as we started in this sort of a flash forward on her life, but we had so many information to give to the audience in this first scene. So you wanted to tell the audience she's in a very posh environment. So we started on a very wide shot of this presidential hotel room, super posh. We start playing an 80s track, so it already brings you back to the past, and then the camera tracks towards her back, and then you say, oh, this posh lady, but it's not so posh. She has been through some difficult stuff. And then when we cut to her close up, you see that she is very beautiful. Sophie Turner is really beautiful, and she's getting her makeup done, and she puts a wig, so she's disguising herself. She's not who she really is. And then when she picks up the phone, she speaks with an accent. When she hangs up the phone, she speaks with a different accent. And then when she tries the diamond, you see lots of diamonds, lots of cash spread all over the bed. and then she's super glamorous, super fancy. So you're trying to deliver all those informations in the same scene and to kind of trigger the audience and puzzle them and say, who is she? And that's the beauty of this show, because the character is so, is like a diamond, has so many different shapes. She's not only a mother, she's not only a thief, she's not only, a single mom, she's not, she has so many different parts to play in her life. And that's what really attracted me to the project.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's such a complex character. And like you mentioned, I think from the very first episode, you're immediately pulled in because you're like, what's going on with this lady? Why does she have scars on her back? Why is she putting on a wig? And it's all these different parts of her that we see really just from like that first shot, I think, which I thought was really cool. And then, so as you mentioned, this is based off of a real life story. I had no idea going into it. It wasn't until after I watched the first episode and I did a little research and then I found out she's real and she was actually a jewel thief in the 80s, which is insane. Um,
Insane.
Crazy. And she got away with so much. I was like, wow. Um, and then, so I was wondering if for you, is there any extra pressure when you're telling the story of a real life person?
Yeah, I mean, the way I do my research usually is like I do a visual research it has to resonate to my feelings while I was reading the script. So when I read 80s London, I had two images come into my mind. One is the colorful pop visual style from the 80s, but also the economic depression of the Thatcher years and the Cold War. So I had to balance those two. And also this comes from not only like a feeling, but also from a historical research that, that period of time, 1985, I guess, and 1984, was this moment, the Cold War was very tough. So everybody was kind of afraid. There was a lot of uh, economic depression in the UK. She comes from a very humble, surroundings. She's like a struggling person, so we had to bring all those stuff to make it really faithful to her journey. At the same time we were trying to achieve very nice, interesting, images that would draw the audience, but it still have to retain some reality, something that is faithful to the era and to her journey.
Yeah, that makes sense. So were you able to meet the real life Joan? Was she a part of this
Yeah, yeah.
project in any way?
No, she's been involved along the way, and she does a cameo. So keep
Oh,
watching the
really?
series. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She does it. Yeah, she's been on the set a couple of times. Very, very funny person. Like a very one of those people that are bigger than real life. Like they're not. There's this charisma when she shows up. It's really amazing. And that's one thing that you know the director was always telling me, we have to be connected to Joan. The audience has to connect with her. So one thing he asked me, said, Pedro, always light her eyes. Her eyes must always have a spark so we can connect to her. She was like throughout 6 episodes, we are always having like a nightlight so you could be drawn into her eyes and also see what she's going through. If it was the struggles of being losing her child, or if it was the thrill of, robbing diamonds.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely see that spark in her eyes, especially like when she's with her daughter, or like you said, the first time she sees the diamond necklace, and there's just this focus on her, and you already know like there's gonna be something that's gonna happen when she looks that way. So that's a good point that you brought up. So as you mentioned, Sophie Turner plays Joan. What was it like working with Sophie Turner?
Oh, she's one of the most accomplished actors I've ever seen and have ever worked with. It's really, she's like a classical musician player. She knows every note by heart. She never misses a mark. She can change her intentions, really responds well to the director. to the other actors, and she's so precise. I was really blown away. She she's not only a beautiful woman, but she's an amazing, talented actor that made my life so much easier, because some of the scenes were very delicate, how to light, and where she always had to hit her mark, otherwise the light's gonna be wrong, the highlight, and she never missed one in 18 weeks. It's
Wow.
unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it was really a pleasure to work with her. Really.
Yeah, it sounds like she's a
And
pro.
no, she's amazing. I was really, really on the first day when we did hair and makeup test before the before we start shooting, so I can see how the light shapes her face, what we needed to do. And on the first day, I said, "Well, she's very clever. She knows. When I put the camera, she knows how to, you know, where to stand to receive the best lighting and also to be in the best position." So it was so good, so pleasurable to work with her. And the more we worked together, so she started to give us more and more. And then sometimes I would do like a shot from her shoulder and she'll do a little peek. So it's like she's looking, she's like inviting us into her world. It's really brilliant. She's brilliant.
So, did you have any one-on-one conversations with her or any like special moments that you guys shared?
Yeah, I mean, the way we work on set is like a very straightforward work. So what happens is the actors come to the set, we rehearse the scene, and then after we see where they're gonna be, they step off, they go to makeup and costume, and I light knowing where they're gonna be. So after this, we rehearse again with the light and the costume and the makeup, and then we do the little last adjustments. And one of those adjustments, then we like, oh, Sophie, can you be like a 2 inches to your left? And when you go there, and then you can lift your chin a little bit, or this kind of minimal requests, and she was bang on. She was always hitting there every mark, and always with a very, like a very calm and relaxed and friendly attitude. She was, sometimes we'd break for lunch, she'd be hanging with us and chatting with the whole crew, like super chilled, super relaxed, and also super focused. Really, really a pro. I
That's
just
great.
can't.
It sounds like a nice set to work on, but very professional.
Very, very amazingly, amazing, amazing.
Yeah, so the series is set in the 80s, as we were just talking about. Um, so I'm curious how you were able to work with each department to make sure that you guys were kind of giving off an authentic 80s look, because I think sometimes with series that are shot and it's supposed to be in the past, it could come off a little cheap. And I think with this series, it looked really natural. So I'm wondering like what the conversations were like about that.
Yeah, I mean the production design, who is responsible for all the sets, for all the locations, and to make everything work. They were working, on day one, really focused on finding good locations and also building sets that could match with our real locations. So it was really like a puzzle, and we all of us had our visual references. So the director had his references, I had mine, and the designer had hers. So we'd make meetings and mix and match. And oh, so on this set, for example, when we did on the episode one, when she's working on her tiny little bar on the Kent coast. So it's gonna be like a little cave, like a almost rundown bar, but it gotta be colorful because of the 80s. So I said, oh, so I'm gonna play with cyan and orange, so it creates a color contrast. So it was like there is like a very deep collaboration between art department and cinematography. I can only light what's in front of the camera, and what's in front of the camera has to be interesting, has to have visual appeal, depth, texture, for me to create lights and shapes and shadows. So we were very, very focused on finding a way to everybody work together and create this 80s, which was very interesting because we shot, for example, this first scene where she's in the hotel, lap one. This hotel is divided in three sets. So the hotel room we built on a house, but a massive mansion house to have that scale. Then after she steps off the hotel, the room, she walks on a corridor. So we shot this corridor of the hotel, like the lobby, on a different city, on a different location.
Wow.
And then the outdoors, the exterior, when she goes into the car and lights her cigarette, is a third city and a third location.
Mm.
So this is like a massive job to combine to see what mix and matches perfectly to create this route. This hotel only exists in our heads. It doesn't really exist for real. It's
Hey,
just like
that's TV
combination.
magic for you.
Yeah, this is movie magic. That's what I love.
Yeah, that's really fascinating to hear you talk about how much color and lighting play a part. Because I studied fashion journalism in college, and so I kind of learned a little bit about like colors and photography and things like that. So hearing you speak about that in detail is really fascinating because I think, as audience members, we're just watching the story, we're just watching the
Yeah.
show. We're not thinking about the lighting and the colors and all
Yeah,
that. So
but
that's,
that's the idea. That's the idea.
yeah,
If the audience starts to pay attention to this stuff, we've probably done something wrong because we're
right.
distracting. That's all the other thing. How much of the 80s, how much we wanted to be faithful but not distracting the audience. So how colorful but not too much.
Hmm.
So when we did the test, it was the same. We did the test, we saw a reference, a book that the production designer brought from an Indian photographer called Sunil Gupta. He has this book called London 1982, and this book for us a like a massive reference because he he has amazing pictures of like those like new wave kids from the 80s with colorful clothes, but in a very depressing part of the city, very gray and dull. So this brought us a lot of inspiration to kind of create a balance between the colorful pop side of the 80s against the hard struggle side of the 80s. So it was really important for us.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, I think you guys did that really well, balancing that. Because, like you said, I think when people think 80s, they think everything needs to be bright and super loud and in your face. And I'm glad that you guys didn't do that, because
Yeah,
I think that would have taken away from the story.
I agree. Yeah, that's what like one of our major goals. It was to find this balance. And
Yeah,
I'm glad that
absolutely.
yeah, and I'm glad most of the people that we've been talking about the show has perceived the show the same way. Like it's not all on your face, it's not distracting, and also but it still brings you back to the era.
Right. I agree. Yes. And then you mentioned that you worked with the director Richard Laxton before. So what do you think it is about you two that you feel like you guys work together so well? Like, how are you able to kind of mesh like your style and his vision?
I mean, I was very lucky to work with Richard because he's such a talented director. He has total mastery of the film language, so he knows how to tell the story. So it also makes my life very easy because our conversations were so good about which is the tone of the scene. Oh, the scene is dramatic. Should it be handheld, close to her, like more organic? Oh, this scene is it has to be glamorous, or should it be on a dolly, on a crane, and the movement gotta be smooth? So it was our collaboration was very rich and it was very easy to achieve because also we shared the same feelings about how we should tell the stories. So that's why we worked so well together. Looking forward for the next one.
That's awesome. Oh, so you guys are going to work together again.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And then, okay, so I'm going to wrap up this interview. I did just want to mention really quickly to everybody watching that Joan is available to stream on Amazon Prime and Roku. I believe it did play on the CW as well. And I think what fans want to know now is, will there ever be a continuation of her story?
Yes,
Yes?
they are working on it, as I've been told. Um,
Oh.
they are just, on the process of developing season two. We have been also already speaking about dates when to shoot. It's in a very early stage, I guess, but everybody's so happy with the show, with Sophie's performance, and also Joan life. You're gonna watch Joan's journey takes so many turns. Has let's like lots of things to happen. So everybody who has gone through the 6 episodes is craving for season two.
Wow, I'm happy to hear that. That's so cool. I had no idea that they were going to do a season two. Okay, so you guys hearing it now that there's going to be a second season. So that kind of helps me go into my next question, which was, what are there any upcoming projects that you're working on that you'd like to share or that you can talk about?
Yeah, I finished recently the last season for this CB strike for BBC HBO, which it has been just released before Christmas. Uh, it's based on a it's a detective story um, based on a J.K. Rowling book written under the name of Robert Galbraith. It's quite popular detective show here in the UK, and it was really interesting, but totally different tone. And currently I'm shooting a very interesting TV series for Sky Studios, which is set in Bristol, UK, and Kingston, Jamaica.
Oh,
So that's what
that
I'm
sounds beautiful.
doing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's been fun. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my goodness. Okay, so lastly, I did just want to ask you, where can people follow you on social media?
Oh yeah, I'm on Instagram under my Pedro underline Cardillo with double L. And that's it. That's all. And then I have my website, which is my name.com, where features all my work, my commercials reel and my TV drama reel as well.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Tiffany, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I hope our paths cross again. I would love to have you back to talk about season two whenever that's
Yeah,
out.
definitely. Yeah, let's talk about that. Gonna be
Yeah, thank you.
more diamonds to be robbed.
I know. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you so
Okay, bye
much.
bye.
Bye.